And we are now live. Now, one thing, I had nothing planned for tonight until I read a post late this afternoon asking about the limitations in the community on the categories down the side. You get a maximum of 20. Okay. In the About section, you get a maximum of 10 dedicated links you can list. And I got to thinking, all right, is there a way around that 20 limit category thing? And I think I figured out one way to do it and maybe two. One way, and I haven't tried any of this, it's all coming from up here, so we may want to set up something and test it later. One way would be to create an event for additional categories. Date it far into the future. That would give you an event with that category name. You could have 500 comments on it. It would show in the community calendar if you created it within your community. And that would suffice if you taught your people to go down there to check for new categories. Another way would be to go ahead and do that, and then in addition to that, make a graphic of your About section. And then in the text above, put the links to those events and just label it new categories. That way you could update that post every time you added a new category event, and it would be, and then pin that post and they'd see your new categories. You'd have your 20 over here, your additional categories here, and then you'd have a graphic of your About section, which would also keep that pinned to the top also. And then further down, of course, your regular About section would show up. Yeah. You could also, if you really wanted to push things in those 10 dedicated links, you could also set up individual events and link your primary 10 there, your most popular ones there, so that they were always, showing. And it's just something I'm kicking around right now. I don't, like I say, may have to go in and do some testing and rearranging and see exactly how it works. But I'm wondering what everybody else thinks. Or is there a really big need to have more than 20 categories? I know on some of the communities that have 200,000 or 300,000 people, there may be, but I'm just wondering what everybody thinks about it.
You got me. My community's not big enough to use. I think I used 5.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's like, user to user. I listed all 20 of them, but I made a lot of them reserved just, so that I'd know how long that space was, how much that space was going to take up when people come in. You know, of course, I do mine differently. Anytime and I've had people comment on this I run my posts in single. I know a lot of people have 2 columns and 3 columns, but they get all, they don't line up in perfect rows, and that confuses me. So I just run mine as a single column down. You know, and of course that when I do that, if anybody else is running single column, if that first thing's very long, that's going to be the only thing they see when they first come in. They'll have to scroll down to get to the rest of the post, but you know, that may be something to consider.
I'm wondering too if they're hitting the 20 limit. Maybe they're trying to be too broad in their community. That
Well,
maybe they need to, for example, if we got so big to where we were overflowing too heavy, user to user HOA, user to user Google Plus, and have those communities. I've seen other communities where they've literally broke it down like that. Um, was trying to think off the top of my head who I know that does something like that. But, it'd be like us having a user-to-user HOAs, user-to-user hardware, user-to-user Google Plus, and
Yeah, but see, there
and
are
then
like
link out to that community for some of that. Be the
yeah,
only
but
thing I could think of.
some can take like Google Help. Google Help's got I mean, I can see where they could have 50 communities easily,
Mm-hmm.
or actually the Google Plus Help, because if you go in there and you ask questions about Hangouts or about Gmail or about almost any separate standing things, they will direct you to the Google product form rather than answer the question there, because they're all about answering questions just about Google Plus. But they've filled all 20 categories, and apparently some other guy asked a question there that got me thinking about this, because he said, we cover there's a lot of stuff that falls under our general thing, and we've run out of categories. Is there a way to get around the limit? And that's what got me thinking about this. Yeah. But yeah, I don't see it as a big thing that a lot of people would do, because I rarely run into products that take up all 20. I know the Google Chrome OS has 20, Google Plus Help has 20, and there's 3 or 4 others that I've run into, but not all of them have this requirement. But I was just thinking of, if anybody asks that question, is there a workable workaround to suggest to
Shy of making a page with frequently asked questions that you put in, like you were talking about, or like your graphic in the user to user, or in the description over there where you have the different links for like live help and stuff like that. If they were to make a page, say like user to user HOA frequent questions, if
them?
we, if we had the need, and then it would shift them over to that, so you wouldn't have to have a spot
Yeah,
in.
but then you're creating something else where they have to go to. Apparently, what he's looking for is to keep everything within the community without having to split it off or send them somewhere else. That's what we're trying to do. Sort of like, it's sort of like keep everything in the community, but fix it somehow. And part of the problem with doing it is you got that 500 comment limit, whether it's
Mhm.
on an event page or on a post or
Well, no,
whatever.
that's why I was saying if you made an actual page, like a business brand page,
Mm-hmm.
and had your frequently asked questions there. But as far as keeping them in the community, the only thing I could think of under the current limits is maybe broaden the scope of the given that you have for the time being, instead of trying to micromanage into every
Mm.
single.
Yeah. Well, in this particular case, what he was talking about is apparently there are classes involved. So there are apparently more than 20 classes, but he wants the students to be able to comment on the individual class, each individual class. And so this was about the only way I could figure out to do it. Because that 20 limit is hardwired. There's no way you can actually add more. You just got to sort of make pseudo categories.
Or
Uh,
group them, and since he can't go more than 20, let's say he's got 35 classes. Uh,
mm-hmm.
do them class 1 to 5, class 5 to 10,
Yeah.
and so
Michael,
on, instead of having an individual for every single class.
Michael added a comment that he said have a category in the community with the FAQ.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a good
good
one
thought,
too.
Michael. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Andrew, you've opened my eyes to something. Of course, you open my eyes to something every time I'm with you. But I just moved you over And this is 100 times better than the comment tracker.
Yeah,
because I lose what little religion I have with comment tracker. Okay?
Yeah, the only problem is you can't pull this up on screen.
Right.
You know, but if everybody sets up this way, there's really not a lot of reason to pull it up on screen.
Right. And if you have a guest on, you can say, Michael Daniels suggested that have a category in the community with the FAQ. So, Tim, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and actually, since I've got it split off, I'm going to try something. Hang on a minute. We're going to go here, and we're going to go here, and we're going to go here, and actually, we say present to everyone. I could at any time. I can't scroll it, but I can put the latest comments up to where people could see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's how Michael does it for the plus word too, and then he just zooms in.
Yeah, but he's using Minicam. I'm not. I'm using Screen Share.
Yeah, which is a little more difficult. Well, what you could do on that separate window is do a Control Plus to enlarge the comment.
Oh, wait.
Then do the screen
If
share.
I go over to my other screen, I can scroll.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I just found out something new, too. Ha!
The other thing, yeah, see, do a Control Plus while you're clicked on that other screen that has your comment section in. It'll zoom those comments in, and then you can just move your sliders further over to the left, so that's what focuses.
That's right. Ooh.
Oh, I agree with you, Michael. People do enjoy not only hearing their name, they love to see the image.
Right, and I knew he was going to say that.
Oh, I did too. But what I'm saying is, I have found a workaround for me that can substitute instead of using Comment Tracker. When I'm doing these things, because quite frankly, I'd never tried before. If I'm so used to being in Business Hangouts where I can just click it and bring it up and it's all there.
Right.
But I don't know what Michael is doing, but I'm glad he's out there commenting.
He may be eating.
Probably.
Maybe dinner.
Well, either that or I don't know. If he's getting the rainstorms that came through here earlier, I know he's not at the baseball game tonight. I don't know whether one was scheduled, but if it is, I'm pretty sure it got rained out. So I don't know because I haven't had a chance to talk to him today. Yeah. I was in Hangouts all day long. Yeah. And I don't know why everybody today decided to do one at noon.
I did because my guest couldn't make it any other time.
Well, that's what threw me because I know yours are usually in the morning, and I looked up and it's like, what's he doing?
Yeah, I know, and I'm going to tell you it's going to be at noon next week because my guest next week, the guest today was on Pacific time and she couldn't make it. My guest next week's on Mountain time, and I said, well, okay, I can give you the flexibility of an hour. But after that, I ain't getting flexible anymore. We were cutting into my lunchtime, okay? You get to be my age, you got to have your lunch.
Yeah, there's certain things you don't mess with,
Right, and it's not real professional if you're eating your lunch while you're hosting a hangout,
No, not unless you offer them some, and then your screen is messy,
Right. Tim, how goes your artwork?
I'm in kind of trying to decide what. I hate when I get to this point because it gets to the point where I have so many things that I want to paint that I have to decide what to paint. And then I've got the added of running around in my brain trying to organize the. You get too much on your plate and it's too easy to hit stall. Because I'm thinking about how to do these lessons and what steps I need to take and how far I need to break it down.
So basically, he's got painter's block, sort of like writer's block.
No, I've got painter's overload. There's a difference. Block means you don't have anything to produce.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's easy.
Overload means that I got too much and I got to figure out where to throw the dart first.
Okay, here's
It's
what you do. You write down everything that you want to paint on a slip of paper, and you put it in a little bowl, and you pull it out, and whatever comes out, that's what you decide to paint. That takes that off your plate. You got that part settled. I'm not saying you start it right then, but at least you know what you're going to be painting when you start. So that gets that part off your plate, and then you can concentrate on the lesson things and how to arrange that and everything. And you just sort of prioritize those. And if you need help, we can tell you how to do that. Uh, I'm good at telling people how to do things.
Yes, so
I
am I.
mean, you know.
Just as long as that first slip that comes out, Tim, doesn't say paint the house. Okay.
Not in my vocabulary.
Well, the reason I was asking is I was looking at that painting over your shoulder, the one you were showing last week, and I just wondered how that was coming along.
Oh, that one's as far as it can go until I get a painting delivered so that I can do the next HOA.
Okay. Okay.
So that's a different project altogether. That one just hit stall yesterday evening? Yeah. No, this morning. This morning, about 6 o'clock.
Okay.
But no, so today I've been running around in my head mostly, okay, what size canvas do I want to throw up next? How elaborate do I want to get? So, because I've got, depending on the size of the canvas, I got oodles of stuff for the given canvas size that I want to do. So, just a case of. So basically, I guess it's more of a case of not block or overload as much as it is to just, you know what? Let's go ahead and take a break today.
Sometimes your mind demands that. You know, it's like I've had enough thinking. I'm going to relax. You go do what you want. You know.
Yep.
Well, sometimes, it's just as dangerous doing too much sometimes as it is doing too little. You know,
Yeah. I did. It was not totally unproductive today, though, because I did get. I helped a friend out with a computer because his just up and plain out died, and the BIOS is on the hard drive, and the hard drive took a dump. When it does, you can't get the video card or anything to boot at that point, and because they won't give away their BIOS.
Yeah.
So he couldn't. So I let him have one of my computers, and he's doing some virtual assistance for me, basically. So I spent part of the day working on that. But that was his idea to do the trade that away, and I said, okay, it works for me. But we used some of your tips from last week about the time stamping, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm still working on that. I mean, the basic idea is good, and I'm doing more and more of the just deleting everything and mentioning something in the video and then searching for that word and deleting everything in between. You know, to get it because, you know, like I say, the transcripts are just absolute trash. You know.
I was wondering, and I don't know if anybody has the answer to this, but you know, a lot of those audio software programs that record your voice and then spill it out into the printed word, they almost have to be trained.
Yeah.
That they're used to your voice. And I was wondering, I looked at some of my Hangouts and I was holding my sides laughing, okay, the way some of the words came out on me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, basically, it's using the same, from near as I can figure out, it's taking the closed captioning text.
Okay.
Yeah, basically that's
and
what
throwing it as a
Okay.
throwing
timestamp.
it in as the transcript itself, or they're making the transcript and then putting that into the closed caption. It's one way or the other. I don't know which way the flow goes, you know.
Well, closed
But
caption would be, you can enable that even live. If someone wanted to do that now, they just go down to the bottom of the screen and select that gear and turn on closed captioning, or the little CC screen rather.
yeah, but
Hmm.
that's what I'm saying. If you go down to a video and you do that, okay, you start it. But if you don't start it, at the end there's a transcription anyway. So when you hit that closed caption button, is it simply taking your the transcript and putting it in there? Because it's got to. I mean, is the transcript created after the whole thing's over? No, because you can see it being created
Well, that's
when you
why I'm
you know.
saying, and this is just a theory, I don't have any proof to back it up, but the impression I'm getting on the watching the way it works and the reading the text that it prints is whether the viewer turns on closed captioning or not, the closed captioning is still part of the signal on the broadcast.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. Yeah, that's
And that's the
true.
way it works even on television.
Yeah.
So what if it's creating it, like you said, if you're able to watch it create the transcript, then that's what it's doing, is it's grabbing the closed caption, and not only is it throwing it on the screen for the viewer that has that enabled, it's throwing it into the timestamp
Mhm. Yeah.
transcription. And it's not that hard. It would just be a matter of sending an echo command, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it prints out some awful screwy stuff.
Well, have you ever turned on closed captioning and watched a movie or a television program?
Yeah, and I know, and
Oh,
it'll
yes.
back up, and yeah.
I tell you what's really funny are the advertisements late at night with all the Japanese characters. Yeah. I mean, hello. Yeah.
But I suspect that's what's happening on that.
Yeah. But now next week I will be embarking on a project, and I'll be asking for members of the community to engage in that project. And what it is we want to develop the cheapest machine dedicated only to doing Hangouts.
Mm.
Now, as you know, I did a thing about a year ago on doing a Hangout on a 2 gigabyte Chromebook, the Acer 710. And it seemed to go pretty well. There's a video of it up on my YouTube thing. But I'm thinking probably 2 gigs would be a little bit shy for people that have marginal bandwidth. So I think what I'm going to be doing is looking for the cheapest 4 gig Chromebook I can find, a good external camera because the one in the Chromebooks, none
Yeah,
of
it's
them
kind of.
really get up to speed. And I think so far, like right now, I'm using the Gearhead 1080p, and I got it on sale for like $18.
Wow.
And to me, it's almost as good as the C920. You know, so I'm going to be trying to get all that together and say, all right, if you want a dedicated machine, so you don't have to worry about Windows and the whole updating and everything, you get you a nice cheap Chromebook, and you can find them, on sale for like $199. Yeah,
Walmart's got one version of ASUS's that it sells on a regular basis.
yeah, and well, in fact, both Walmart and Amazon have introduced. There's two new brands, Hisense, and the other one starts with an H2, that are $149. They're using the Rockwell chip. They are only 2 gigabytes, But for $149, I'm almost tempted to go out and buy one just to play with it, just to see what it can do. You know. But
I
I
put a
have
link in the chat box that Michael shared
yes, thank you.
on the transcription software. There's a YouTube.
Oh, I may have to watch that. Okay.
thanks, Michael.
We do appreciate you, sir.
I hope he's not umpiring a game and
What? No, I didn't see that man slide into third. I was busy.
busy talking about comment tracker. They actually, I'll tell you, it was only about 50 miles up the road from here in Evansville, Indiana. But the University of Evansville was playing Indiana University last night, and one play actually made ESPN's highlights. Kid went back and literally somersaulted over a fence to rob some other kid of a home run. I mean, he put his back and just did a backflip and caught the ball and came up holding it up. And they said, well, how did you know he caught it? Well, he flipped into the opposing team's bullpen. And if he'd have dropped the ball, they'd all come running over yelling that he'd have dropped the ball. That is something else. But it made ESPN's top 10 last night.
That's funny.
You know, Andrew, that is a really great idea. Because especially people who do regularly scheduled hangouts on air, they can just have a dedicated machine that all they'd have to do is turn it on.
Well, I can give you kind of an example. If you look on, I'll look up some of the videos that Dennis Deuce did earlier last year, into March, first part of April. I was actually in the hospital with my son after his spinal surgery to keep him from being paralyzed from the neck down, and was using a Chromebook in the HOA with him, and all I had was a set of headphone microphone and the camera on the 199 Asus Chromebook.
Yeah, and like I said, I did one, when I got the Acer 710, and just to see if it could be done. And during while I was actually broadcasting, I switched cameras to the 920 and switched back and everything. And during the broadcast, I actually disconnected the Ethernet cable just to see what the wireless was like, and you couldn't hardly tell him the difference. Of course, I have to admit, I've got fairly good wireless here. I don't have any trouble with my speeds, except when Comcast hiccups or something,
Well, mine was definitely wireless, and like I said, I was in the room with my son because it was a semi-private. They just put me on one side and him on the other, so that we could be there with him while he was going through his rehab and everything. And all the broadcasts for that 2 weeks that I did with Dennis was off of that Chromebook without an external camera. So they can do it.
Yeah.
It would depend on and now hosting it might be a little more of an issue if you can't hardwire. But as a guest, it seemed to work fine. There were no glitches that came up along the way.
Yeah, I'm aiming more toward the hosting thing because to me, I'm lucky enough now. Basically, I have got a machine that's dedicated, to the Hangout, to the hosting thing. Now that I've got my new Pixel, once I actually get the cables routed the way I want to, instead of all being knotted up between the Pixel and my TV screen, where I can actually do things, I'll be using that strictly for the Hangout thing. But not everybody's going to want to spend, $1,700 for a Pixel to do Hangout.
Yeah, I'll have to look and see if I can pick up easy enough around here the adapter from USB to um, Cat 5 network cable to go a hardwire. But I've got the low-end equipment to test it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got extra cameras. I can just pull one
Yeah.
off of another duty for that test. It would just be, like I said, the trick is going to be I live out here in the middle of nowhere, and I may have to order that adapter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, do the hardwire test of it. And like you said, do it with the Chromebook camera and an external camera of good quality.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll use the 615 because it's a 1080 camera instead of a 720 camera.
Yeah.
Because the 525 is only 720, but the 615 is, like I said, it's at 1080. And that should be right around the same ballpark as that 920.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a video that Craig Long put a link to. I'll have to find it about hooking up a video camera, to your thing with a HDMI cable. And it's a Mac something or other. It's just a box. The thing goes in one end and the HD camera goes in the other. It's $300. But with what you can get out of it camcorder, I may try and pick up a real cheap one on eBay and start playing like John Brown does. Try using a camcorder for hosted HOA to see what happens.
How would you do that? Because I've got a pretty decent camcorder, and the thought has crossed my mind from time to time to use that. It's a Sony, and it's a nice one, and I always wondered how I could use that in lieu of my C920 or whatever's I got on board.
Hang on. Let me get over into my email and see if I can find Craig's post. If I can. Graph just a message. I don't see it. Now I know he posted, and I thought it was in the user community, but I don't see it right now. Interesting. Okay, let's go back over here. You all chat among yourselves while I'm trying.
Yes, we will.
Well,
just trying to say, is this where we take a commercial break? Andrew will be right back.
I know where I was asking Phil Boyer, and I don't know if he's using a FireWire input because of the camera he's using or not, but he's using an older Panasonic that is doing the streaming for his HOAs. So it may be like John Brown was talking about his Nikon hacks. Okay. You may have to kind of play around, dig around, put in Sony, the camera name,
right,
hacks, and see if there's something out there that somebody has. Because, with open source software the way it is now, and a lot of programmers are just can I make this happen? Because that's their hobby even when they're off work.
True.
It's true. I know some serious hard coders that if they can't code, they go nuts.
Well, apparently, I have filed it somewhere. I can't find it right now, but it's a guy that, and I want to say his first name is Max, but he does a lot of videos about, different equipment, testing them, and showing he's got his own YouTube channel and everything. But apparently, it's this $300 thing that's about as big as that, and it may be an inch high, and it looks like an Ethernet to USB connector, converter. About how big they are, it looks like it's about that size. It's $300. You take and you run your HDMI from your camera into one end of this thing.
Okay.
And then the other end of it is a USB port that plugs into your computer, and there it is.
It's a USB to HDMI
Mm-hmm.
adapter, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
And in fact, I think it's called a Magwell, Magwell, if I remember right. Because I've seen somebody last week, talk about it. And in fact, they asked me about it, and I sent them over to produce Hangouts, how to do it. And I said, I thought it was almost camera specific, as to what you had to do and everything. But apparently, with this thing, of course, $300 is a little pricey.
Well, Amazon, I'm just looking here right now. Mm-hmm. Amazon has them for $53.48.
Okay, now you got to be careful because there's two types.
One
of them is the Magwell recorder, and the other one is the Magwell converter.
Okay. Well, this is a super speed USB 3.0-2.0 HDMI DVI adapter for Windows and Mac. And it's got the USB on one end. It got a USB plug coming out of it on. Let me see if I can do a screen share. Let me see here if this will let me do this.
Well, he's working on that. What it may be is the one you're talking about. The reason it's the price it is, Andrew, is he may have, the one he's using may have codec translators that translates it from whatever the camera's feeding out for HDMI into the USB.
I don't know. I just,
There, you see that?
Yeah, but because at the end of his video, what if I can ever find the link to it, he specifically mentions to be careful because there is one that doesn't have all the capabilities of this $300 one.
Okay.
And it was a $300 one that he was testing.
All right. They've got a couple different ones. That was the one I just pulled up.
Okay. Yeah, let me go over here and
I'll stop the screen share.
But depends on the video too. They've made so much advances in those adapters and converters that even a year out, there could have been some serious changes and production costs go down and things like that, or whatever volume sales go up. A lot of variables like that to affect the pricing of some stuff.
Yeah, hang on. I'm gonna go over and look in YouTube because I'm curious about this thing now. Okay, let's see. No, we're not talking about the Glock store, Manuel. That's not what we want to do. Well, drat. Nothing comes up in Magwell either. I'm gonna have to. I'll have to go in and find Craig's post because I know he sent a thing today and it was in a thing It may have been on Terry's thing. I don't know. I get so much stuff, you know, and my memory is completely shot. But I thought it was a neat little thing. In fact, I even asked my sister if we had an old video camera laying around. She says, "No, we never got that far." You know?
Michael says that the one John was showing is the one that he uses to get his 32-inch HDMI TV to work. That he even bought a USB card for his computer so he could use it. And then he says Cable Matters, I believe, is the make.
Yeah. Well, I will spend the rest of the evening searching for that thing once we quit, and I'll post it and let everybody know what it is, because I thought it was pretty neat because I know people have been asking about it, and I thought, oh, this may be the solution. I'm obviously going to have to.
The other Magwell or whatever device he's talking about, instead of a USB to HDMI adapter, it may be a capture device, and that's why it would be a little more expensive. So you'd have to look up Maxwell's HDMI to USB capture.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Because I'm trying to think of the guy's name that does the video. But I'll find it. There will be a message posted by tomorrow morning in the user community about it.
Because that would be interesting if it worked with my Fuji. Because I've got an HDMI out that I can live stream my video right out of the Fuji.
Yeah, well, apparently
that's HDMI TV. And if that'll do that, that eliminates one of the things that John Brown and I were talking about the camera and the hacks between the Nikon and the software that Canon supports themselves for streaming some of their D-series cameras.
Yeah.
So it'd be if it works well and the camera on my end is up enough, that would be a good, I don't want to say stopgap, but that's the word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Transition piece to go from webcam to the actual photo video cam, and then up to the other video later.
That's not it. That's not it.
Michael, are you using a video cam HDMI to your TV, or are you using the camera or an output from your TV to the USB? He says a 32-inch HDMI, even bought the card. That would say input. Is there an HDMI out feature on some televisions? Because I'm not fooling with those flat screen TVs, I don't know about maybe.
I know that if I want to use a dual monitor, now I can run HDMI from my flat screen right into my laptop, and just my laptop will automatically show both monitors.
Yeah. If the card is set up for it on the video card, yes, that's normal.
Yeah, that's.
You see the video cards that, for example, mine it's a double wide card, and it has two of the DVIs, and then it's got an HDMI output. The only difference is you have to watch is it looks like theoretically it should support 3 monitors at that point, but the HDMI cancels one of the HDVI ports out.
Okay.
So
well, I tell you,
2 monitors, but yeah, that's basically what it's doing with your laptop.
I'm getting to the point anyway. I got a 38-inch flat screen that I use, and my eyes are getting so damn bad it don't matter. I'm going like this to look at it. So
Okay.
Okay, Terry, Michael linked his, so I'm going to go get it. Yeah, he's coming off of into a video capture card. Okay, yeah, that was what I was wondering about. So yeah, because that was another thing I looked at, was a video capture card direct out of my camera that does video. That makes sense, Michael. And you can either send it out, you can use it from your camera to send it out to the HDMI, or you can use another computer to input video feed through the HDVI.
See, I couldn't remember, and I didn't want to say anything, but I remember I asked him this about Michael about 5 or 6 months ago, and that's what he told me. Now that I recall, I couldn't remember exactly what he had said, but he said you might have to get a capture card.
Yeah. The original question, Michael, to reiterate, was trying to figure out if there's a direct way to use a dedicated digital video camera to stream the HOAs with instead of a webcam.
Michael, your invite's on the way.
We're about to be educated. Tim, I don't know if you saw my brief 5-minute tongue-in-cheek. Well, it wasn't tongue-in-cheek. The video I did for user to user about adjusting your camera settings. You'd be surprised people who don't know you can adjust your camera settings.
Well, depending on the device they're in, sometimes that's not an option too. There's a certain amount you can do inside the Hangouts, but sometimes it's limited depending on what.
Here's what I heard John Brown say last week. This is what I heard, okay, before you all completely lost me. But just a little aside, I've got my oldest son is a network administrator, and I'm sharing some of what you guys were talking about. Oh, I got to join this community. Oh, I got to join this community. So, well, you knock yourself out. But what I heard John saying is that if you set your camera at 720, that's compatible with what Google uses on their platform as you broadcast. If you try to set it any higher, it's not going to matter, and it might screw up the quality. Well, I was sharing that with somebody the day after. They said, well, how can you adjust your camera? And I said, well, you go to your camera software. Well, I've got an onboard camera. I don't have any software. And I said, I've got an onboard camera in my laptop too, but it has software. You can, so that's why I did that little short video. Was I thought, I wonder how many other people just don't know you can adjust your camera.
Well, you can on Windows, but you can't on Chrome.
Yeah, but if you know it right at the end, I made that exception because I knew you would be the guy that would say, "Wait a minute, John," and I knew that. Okay, and so you'd be surprised at people that think a Chromebook just has all these bells and whistles on it until they start looking at one. They don't realize, and I'm going to use the word bare bones, how bare bones it is.
It is and it isn't. If it depends on what type of user you are. Now, if you're tied to a program that absolutely has to run on Windows, you're stuck. But there are a world of apps and extensions, in the Google Store that you can get. And, you got to remember, it automatically comes with Google Drive and Google Docs and Google Sheets. And, there's a lot you can do with it. Now, granted, you can't do a lot with a lot of that stuff offline unless you go specifically and mark that you want to use that particular thing offline. And trying to get to files and learning all the different flags and learning because there's no directory thing that you can follow. It's all done by flags and stuff. Using you finding the stuff is what's hard. Once you find it, it's easy to use, but it's a whole different layout and everything. You're starting it basically it'd be like starting to learn Windows. If somebody
Ah,
never had a computer before and you handed them the newest Windows machine and told them, "There's your computer," you know, they would be just as lost as somebody with a new Chromebook. And so basically, you got to forget almost everything you know about Windows to use a Chromebook or a Chromebox.
good evening, Michael.
Where's
Hey,
the
gentlemen.
where's
Hey, how
the
are you? Let me
Right.
explain exactly what my setup is, so I don't want to confuse anybody.
Okay.
I have a capture card. I use that for taking. Okay, let's say I have my laptop with an HDMI out from my laptop, so I can plug it into a TV. I take that cable and put that straight into that capture card. That's what I use for that capture card. Or I take any device. I can take a camera, a Sony camera or a Canon camera or whatever that has HDMI, and I can put that in there as well, as long as it has an HDMI out. So I can use that to capture that data from either one of those things. As far as my monitor, my 32-inch monitor, I just have an HDMI, same as you do for your cable. When you plug in your cable and you want to do HDMI in, it's a HDMI in, but what this converter little box, that thing that you looked up, John, that little box converts that into USB 3, so now that comes into USB 3, and it forces my monitor, my television to act as a monitor. And I actually, because USB is fast, USB 3 is fast and can handle that monitor, I actually have my other monitors that I normally have because they have HDMI on these monitors. I just plug them right in. It also will do DVI and VGA. It has a converter that'll do all of those. So that's why I chose that particular one that you saw out there, 3.0
Okay.
slash 2.0, and that's the way I make that whole process work. And it's great. I absolutely live by it. It's awesome.
Okay.
Can have up to 6 monitors hooked up through that way.
Wow.
Plus your one that's already plugged into your computer. But keep in mind, that's all a lot of processing going on.
Yeah.
So there's a bog with that. Hopefully that clears up some of what you guys were talking about.
That's
I thought, and I don't know if you caught it or not, Michael, but I thought I had asked you that question about 4 or 5 months ago, and that's the answer you gave me. I just couldn't remember the answer.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, I only got the capture. What I really wanted to do, my cousin played in a Southeast regional series, headed to the Little League World Series, and it was on TV, and I recorded it because it was on ESPN. It was really kind of cool. I wanted to capture that and put that onto my computer so my brother could have it forever as a gift. And cable, unfortunately, your cable box has a block in there. It won't allow you to draw in, like obviously with their Showtime videos and all the different things and televised things, it won't let you do it. So I was asking around trying to get things to work, and I really was hoping that would work. So Terry said, you're right, it won't work with HDMI or anything like that, but you could capture it through there's another thing on the back of a cable box that's not blocked, is the red, yellow, blue, or red, yellow, green, or whatever, and you could go through that way and do it, and then capture sound another way and all this kind of stuff. So it's just a matter of me having to go through and do that process. But I really want to I still want to do that. I just haven't. It's in another room, and I'd have to have all these wires all over, and with cats and dogs and a wife, it's kind of tough to do that all the time. So
First time the wife tripped over a wire, she'd be using it on you from the
Right.
ceiling.
I know how you feel. It's just like getting ready to drill a hole in the floor so you can run your Cat 6 cable down to your office and being asked what you're doing. Okay.
Well, there's one other way you can do it. You get a tripod, you get your your camcorder, you set it all up, set it back from your big screen TV,
Okay.
you turn it on, you start watching the thing, you turn the volume of the TV up as loud as it can go, and you record the whole thing onto your camcorder.
That'll work.
And then make it black and white, so then I can tell them it was back in the early 30s that they did
Right.
this video, so that way.
You know, Andrew, my brother and I got and this is in 1968. My brother and I got a small reel-to-reel tape recorder for Christmas. And I remember we were recording audio on TV shows for weeks. Okay.
I
And
did the
thought that
same
was
thing.
the coolest thing in the world.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, I've still got some of those recordings at my sister's barn, I think.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, I'm a pack rat. I never throw anything away unless I move. When I decide to move, if it won't fit in 2 suitcases, it doesn't go with me, except for my computer stuff.
Yeah.
Like
So
when
I guess your sister's not going with you then.
Well, when I moved from California back to Tennessee, I left over 700 record albums in California
Oh, wow.
with my roommate because I couldn't bring them. I mean, I brought my Bessie Smith collection, and I brought my Billie Holiday collection, and those were the only two that I brought with me. Everything else stayed in California. I don't like to be bugged down with a whole lot of luggage when I move, And I can't tell you how many beds I bought during my lifetime moving from one place to another. Because I'm not about to fool with a box spring and mattress. I just, no.
Those wear out anyway, though. So, if you time your moves to about the time that set wears out, no problem.
There you go.
Yeah.
Most people keep their wills and their insurance policies and all their important papers in their safe deposit box. I have all my baseball memorabilia in ours. Okay. If my house burns down, my Pete Rose autograph will survive. Okay?
That's like my sister's NASCAR card collection. That's in the grab this out as you go out the door type thing. It is now 8 o'clock. If nobody objects, I'm going to go ahead and stop this broadcast. I've still got the screen open, and we can invite people in if they decide to come in late. But this way, they be able to